Boa tarde a todos. Vamos começar aqui um evento de extensão acadêmica do mestrado do IBDT. Nós aproveitamos a visita da Fabiola Annacondia, que já é a segunda vez que nos brinda com a sua presença aqui no IBDT. Ela que é uma das maiores especialistas em IVA no mundo, e IVA é um tema bastante caro para a gente no Brasil nesse momento, muitas propostas, muitas ideias. Então nós pensamos em aproveitar a agenda dela, que é bastante apertada, e fazer aqui um evento para discutir IVA e IBS numa perspectiva comparada. A Fabiola vai fazer uma exposição contando algumas coisas. Ela, obviamente, já conhece muitos dos problemas que nós estamos discutindo. Ela vai fazer uma exposição do que seria um IVA e IBS alinhado com os padrões internacionais. A exposição vai ser principalmente em inglês, mas ela entende português perfeitamente. As discussões vão ser em português, inglês, espanhol, portunhol. E nós contamos aqui com a presença ilustre do Zé Maria Ruda de Andrade, que é professor da Universidade de São Paulo e aqui do diretor do IBDT. A Lina Santin, que tem uma participação muito grande no projeto, que está na mesa, no Congresso. Ela que é da CCIF e conhece os problemas no detalhe, tem se dedicado bastante a isso. E o Zé Luiz Ribeiro Brazuna, que é professor aqui do BDT também e profissional da área, que vão ajudar a gente a conduzir as discussões.
Good afternoon, everybody. If you don't hear me or anything, let me know. And first of all, I would like to thank the IBFD for inviting me today here to talk to you about VAT. And that's what I'm going to try to do the next hour, is to give you the basic principles. Okay, yeah. The basic principles of a VAT system wherever in the world. Later, I will go to some topics related to the European VAT, how Europe implement the VAT and what are the rules today. And I will finish with telling you what are the recommendations of the OECD at the moment related to VAT and what countries are doing around the world, a little bit of the last trends related to the digital economy. I will, that's what I said, it will be only an overview of everything, because it's a lot, and we could be here talking for hours about this, but that you get at least after these 2 hours that we have to discuss, and we have here at least that you get the main ideas of what a VAT it is and how it could be implemented in Brazil, if it's implemented, and what are the features that you must implement and which ones are the best that you don't implement it. Because as any system, it have advantages and disadvantages. And that is what I'm going to try to explain to you today. And please ask any questions. All questions are welcome. You can ask, it was said by Victor, you can ask a question in Portuguese, Spanish, or English, and I will try to see how I reply. Well, that's what I say. The first important thing is not working. Oh, there it's working. The first idea is when we talk about VAT, we don't talk about the name of the tax, because I know that here you also have the discussion how you will call it or not. What is the most important, because if we see even some countries, they call it general sales tax, but it's a VAT type of tax. It doesn't matter the name. What is important is the characteristics that a VAT system has. And every VAT system around the world, it has 4 main characteristics. And that is what it makes a tax that is a VAT type of tax. Because also a lot of time you hear about GST, goods and service tax also. But it's the same, because have students sometimes, no, my country does not have a VAT. My country have a GST. Yes, but that's the same. It doesn't matter, because if not, I would say, Argentina doesn't have a VAT, have an impuesto al valor agregado. Every country have the name in their own language, in their own country, but that doesn't matter. At the moment, we have 183 countries in the world that they have a type of VAT system. And when you can compare it, for example, in Brazil, it will be the ICMS is what is more similar to the characteristics of a VAT type of tax, but the main characteristic does not have it, what is a general tax, but the other characteristics are there at least. But the first characteristic of a turnover tax is a consumption tax. What we try to tax with this tax is consumption. It's something that is consumed in a country. And the main idea is to tax everything that is sold in the country, all goods, all services, anything that happens in the country should be taxed. That's why we normally say when you export something, we do not tax because there is no consumption in the country. But when we import something and it's going to be consumed in our country, whatever country we are, we tax that. And that is the first characteristic. Yes. Real estate, there is tax because there are different ways to tax real estate in mobile property, because some countries, they say, well, you consume it when you buy it. Other countries, they will tell you, you consume it during all the time that you are using the real estate. There are different ways to tax real estate. It's one of the topics normally on VAT. There are two areas that are very difficult to tax. One is real estate, because when the consumption takes place, and the other one is financial services. And that are the two areas that for sure you are going to be facing the problems. At the moment of trying to tax these two areas, you face a problem, and there, every country have like something different. But like we can go later when we talk more about how to tax and what to tax. But that is exactly an example of a difficult area. As I was saying, like first VAT will sound simple, but I have to say that it's a very complicated tax when you enter into all the detail of it. But let's go for starting with the simple and let's complicate it with the time goes on. It's an all-estate tax because it's a tax that you will like subject the goods or the service to VAT. Every time that the good or the service change hands, that they go, you know, in a change of transactions, it will be taxed with VAT. You will see later on with me with numbers, and it will be easy to understand how this works. The main characteristic of a VAT, where I have to point? I should point somewhere that maybe there. Okay, that's what I say. Sorry that, like, is the non-cumulative tax, because always when you buy something and you pay some VAT, you will be allowed to deduct, to get a credit of all the VAT that you pay in the stage before. Therefore, you are not going to accumulate tax when you are subjecting something to VAT. And the last one, that is an indirect tax. We all know, like direct tax, income tax, all of us, we are the taxpayers. That's what we normally talk about, taxpayers, because we are the ones that will bear the tax. But on VAT is different, because normally, like we also, the VAT specialists, we never talk about taxpayers, because about taxable person, because the taxable person is the person who collects the tax and remit it to the government. That is like what you will call it, between quotations, the taxpayer on VAT. Companies should not bear any VAT because it's a tax on consumption. Only when something is consumed is at the moment that they should pay the tax. And therefore, it will be only like the final consumers, the one who will use and consume the goods of the service, the one who will bear the tax. That's why it's an indirect tax. Now we go to the example with the numbers. Like, it's a basic example. I put the rate of 20% because the 20% is at the moment the average rate on the OECD countries. Like, this used to be 10 years ago, like around 17, 18. But in the last 10 years, with all the economic crisis around the world, like it was really incremented. The standard rate, what is called the general rate of VAT, had been increasing a lot. And we will see later, even in the European Union, there is one country, that is Hungary, who have a rate of 27% at the moment. That's what I say. With VAT, you can put really high rates. How it works is like this. I'm like, if you have a supplier, let's imagine here we are supplying a good, like we are supplying any good. A will supply that good to B. There are two companies. And like, they are supplying the goods for 100, and they will have to charge 20% of VAT. That will arrive to an amount of 120. What company A will have to do is to remit this 20 that he collected from company B to the government, to the tax authorities. There will be their tax return. Later on, B will sell the same good to company C, company C, and they will be charging 250 for the same good. And like it will have like a 20% VAT again. That means that he will collect from C 50 euros of VAT. And what he will have to do is will be having an output. The output is the VAT that he collected. The input is the VAT that he paid. And he will make his tax return. 50 minus 20, he will remit 30 to the government. Later, C is the one who sell it to the final consumer. He will decide to charge 600 for this good. He will charge 600 again with 20% VAT. We will have a final price of 720, and see what it will do. We'll have an output tax of 120, an input tax of 50. He will remit 120 to the government. Like when you see that, like he will remit the 70, we will see that the government have collected exactly the same amount that the final consumer had paid, because companies should not bear any VAT. If we are in a perfect system, this is what you have to know. If you are like the advisor or anything of a company, the company should not pay €1 of VAT, because it's not a tax on companies, it's a tax on consumption. Only the final consumers, the one that they consume something, is the one that they will be paying the VAT. And if you see, it was collected in stages, and the 120 is what the government received, is what the final consumer had paid. This is the neutrality and the perfect system. Yeah, this is going better. Disculpen, like, and well, here is like the 120, and now like why we call it value added, how it's created this, because like it's to put you on their terminology. Output tax is everything that the like supplier is charging to the customer for VAT. That we call output tax. Input tax will be everything, all the inputs that a company need to produce that goods. When you produce any kind of goods or services, you will have an office that you will rent, you will have material, you will have machines, you will have like any kind of cost. In general, as we say, if a general tax, everything will bear VAT, and all that VAT. And it's like, now we are again. So I feel maybe we can have the computer here, I can touch it, because I did it animated, but maybe it was not the best solution. Like, yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, you go like, yeah, it's, no, I will try from here. Maybe if we put it nearer, it will. Disculpen. Sometimes, you know, you think that animation is better, and maybe it will be better to not have it. Well, when I was explaining, I will continue, is like the only thing that in reality, the value added, what is really like the difference between one and the other, will be the items that they do not have VAT, because as we all know, if we pay a salaries to our employees, the employees do not charge VAT, because we say supply of goods and services, employees' salaries, they are not VAT. Of course, there are some items, for example, interest, as I was mentioning to Victor about financial services, there are some items that they also do not have any VAT, and of course, any company would like to have some profit, and that profit will not have VAT. That difference, that is the increment that the company is putting into the change of transactions, that will be the difference. That's what is called the value added. The value added that you add in every stage of the production and distribution change, it will be what it will be VAT in that moment. Yes.
In the last slide, when you
Yeah.
say various services, is that
Any kind of service.
Advertising, lawyers.
Advertising, lawyers included, accountants, doctors, if you are in an activity that you need doctors, everything will be like with VAT in the beginning, because later we will see that there are certain exceptions to the general rules. But in general, other services, any kind of service that you are buying, it's supposed that it's a general tax and it should include VAT. Alternative system. Which alternative systems are today in the world, and why the majority of people choose VAT? Now we have already explained. The first one is the VAT. The second one is the retail sales tax. And like we know all, like any one of you, if you go to the US, what happened? You go to any shop, you go to Gap, and you try to buy a piece of clothes. You say, oh, this is nice, $100, and you arrive to the cashier, and suddenly you get 108. 108. It was 100. Why? Because they have a retail sales tax. They do not tax all the transactions before the final sale. They use it at the last stage, at the retail level. They charge the tax, and there is when they charge. If they will use a the same rate of 20%, let's say the final effect for the government will be the same, because the price is 600, because it was not influenced by the tax price in our example A, but like the issue is they have another disadvantages. But if you have the same rate, because also when you have a retail sales tax, what you never can put is such a high rate as in VAT. Because, well, you will see between the advantages that the VAT is a tax that we don't feel, because in Europe or any country that you have a VAT system, when you go to a shop and you see that an item is 100 euros, it will be 100 euros when you go to the cashier. Therefore, you are not knowing how much you pay. If you are in the US and suddenly you go to New York, which is the one with the highest sales tax, of course, you will say, oh, I have to pay 109 here because the rate is 9%. But if I will go to Boston, suddenly in Boston, clothes is exempt from like sales tax, and I will pay the 100 only. Why I'm buying here, I will go to Boston and buy my clothes in Boston, which is relatively nearby. And therefore, you can have different things because you see what you are paying at the moment of buying it. Another system that I have to say now at the national level, federal level, there is no country who have it, is the cumulative system. In the past, a lot of islands in the Caribbean and in a lot of places, they continue having these cumulative systems. That was the same, but if we see that if we want to write the government to collect the same amount of 120, you already, in my example, you have to start with a really low rate, with 12% in my example, for example. But what was the problem of this system? It was a cumulative system, and when we arrived to globalization, companies could say suddenly they decide to put like the transactions that they are in B and C, they make one company, they merger, and suddenly it's only going out one time. That means that the tax collected for the government is much less, the price to the final consumer is lower, and what it creates, distortion of competition against small businesses, because small businesses, they could not do the same, because that's why they are small. Medium-sized companies, they cannot merge all kind of activities into one and only charge one time. That's what I say. I put it as an alternative system, but as I say, as a national level, at the moment, there is no country having this. Soon it will disappear, but like if we go 10 years ago, this still was happening. But these are at least the like alternative system that you can have as type of indirect taxes. What happened, now we go to the same example, what happened when we export goods? On VAT, we normally, as I explained at the beginning, is a tax on consumption, and every time that something is consumed, it needs to be paying the tax. And also the jurisdictions is inside of the country that is taxing with VAT. That means, let's imagine Brazil have a VAT system. When you will export something, there is no consumption in the country. That's why, like, we should not charge any tax there, because the consumption will be taking place in another country, and that country, if they have also a VAT type of tax, what they will do, they will charge with VAT at the moment the consumption takes place. In our example, Brazil will not have any consumption, and that's what it should happen. It should not only not tax the output, because they should not tax anything, but it should give back also to the supplier C, which is exporting the goods, the tax that it was collecting during the stage before in Brazil, because in reality there was no consumption here, and that's for the tax administration is zero. That is something that you have to take really into account. Something that is exported, there should not be any tax in the country, because it's not a tax on income, it's not a tax on like labor, it's a tax on consumption, and no consumption took place in the country. Now I will explain a little bit how it works when you have reduced rates, and when it's good to put reduced rate and when not. We are going to give the same example. I'm working all the time with the same for you to make it easy. Let's imagine that now C, it's selling a kind of goods like that is reduced rate. For example, let's put a book. You know, normally like books, you know, you want that people read more, people is educated in your country, and you say, well, I want to promote education. I want books to have reduced rate, because if you put it in a reduced rate, you will like have lower prices for consumers. In this case, what it will happen, the books of 600 reais, let's say, it will be like with 5% VAT, and there what we are going to have an output of 30, and we have an input of 50. What this person will do doing, it will be getting back from the government the 20, because as we said, it should be neutral. The company should not pay more, because the output is in a reduced rate does not mean that the person cannot deduct all the VAT that had paid. Of course, all the inputs for preparing the book is paper. Paper will be normal price. The machine that they have to buy to produce the books, the building that they have to rent, it will all be a standard rate. And that's why they will have like some credit to get back, and what the government got, the 30 euros that the final consumer pay for that. And that's what I say, if a government has tax policy, they would like to put reduced rate, great, is perfect, but please put it only on goods that they arrive to the final consumer. Because if not, you will have this problem. Now suddenly we have the book, and the book is bought by the IBDT. IBDT buy the books, and here we have that we have a 5% like in the buying the book, like the tax return will be 12.50 the output, 20 is the input, and 7.50 to return, because the book is reduced rate, that's perfect. But now the book is incorporating into a course, and the course is a normal course. The course should have VAT at the rate of 20%. The book is given into the course. You are not going to say books are here separated and everything. And in this case, what it will happen, the course will have 20% VAT, 120 to be paid, like minus like 12.50, 107 to be sent it to the tax authorities, and what the government got? The 120. What the final consumer paid? 120, like what the government work is 120. That's perfect, it's neutral. But you see, if you put reduced rates as a government on items that they are normally used in the middle of a process of a change of transactions, in the case the book is very extreme, and I try to make it, but you have to look really what items you put reduced rate, because the effect for the final consumer will be nothing. And that's why you should make first the minimum of reduced rate, if you cannot live without, and if you do it, when you do it, really check which items are reduced rate. Now we continue with the paradox of VAT. Those who are taxed are effectively exempt, and those who are exempt are effectively taxed. Anyone knows why I say this on VAT? I think people here is laughing. They know exactly what I mean. I'm sure if I ask all of you if you are exempt on income tax, what you're going to tell me? Are you happy if I tell you that you're exempt of income tax? Income tax. You are not happy? Oh, well, I think I will be very happy if someone exempts me from income tax. I don't have to pay. But normally on VAT, when you say to companies you are exempt from VAT, they go and they send the lobbyists not to be exempt because they don't like it. Why? First of all, those who are taxed, if you are a company which you have all your goods and services which are taxable, let's say subject to VAT, you will be allowed to deduct all the costs that you have that include VAT. That means as a company, you don't pay any VAT. You only like declare, you administrate it, you do a lot, but not pay the VAT itself. But if you're a company which you are exempt, that means that the output that you have, for example, banks where they have financial services and the financial services are exempt, they will get the problem because if your transactions are exempt from VAT, in general, you don't have the right to deduct any input VAT. And what it will happen, you will have all this input VAT that you will have to pass in your cost. And that's why your goods or service will expensive, and that's why companies, in general, they do not like to be exempt. And how it works in practice and exemption, as I always say, also, if you want to put certain things exempt because you want that they arrive to a lower price to the customers, in that sense, it will work, but you will see how they generate a different result. Because here, like for example, we have the same example, it's 600, but because C will not be able to deduct the 50 euros that had paid to B as like VAT because it's exempt transactions what it performed, what it will happen that it will have this, the price for him will be higher, will be 650. He will not have anything to remit to the tax administration. His return will be 0. He will not even have to make a return. But as you see, there will be some VAT. Of course, if you will see, it's also, it was paid by the final consumer because the price was increment because you pass it. The company wanted to have the same profit. The company wanted to have everything the same. but like some VAT was passed to the final consumers. I always say, when you buy something without VAT, don't believe it. Nothing is without VAT. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Because you will always have something in before, even if you are a lawyer and you say, my services are exempt and I don't charge any VAT, you're a lawyer. You needed to like drive your car, you bought your car, you pay VAT, your gasoline, your office, your paper, everything have VAT. Nothing is really clear without VAT. You will not pay it as a VAT. You will not see it, but it will be included. And the worst effect is if you, as a government, when you create your tax policy, you create like suddenly an exemption in between of the middle of a change of transactions. Because what happens, well, I hear my example say supplies of goods, but let's make that B is a bank, which is providing a loan to another company. And now suddenly, like, he is going to sell the goods on to 70 because he bought the goods from 120. He have 20 euros of VAT. He's providing something that is exempt, financial services. He will not charge any VAT, but he will have to increase his price to have the same profit on these 20. And therefore, his return will be 0, but already the price will be 20 higher for C. C, of course, will have 620 because he wants the same profit. Now he have paid 270 instead of 250. He will charge 620, 20% VAT, 124. And now you even see what happened here. We have even some hidden VAT, and it's accumulating. It's even worse. Of course, everything is paid by the final consumer because you pass it in your pricing, but sometimes you cannot pass everything in your pricing because if you have a lot of costs which include VAT, but your competitor do not have the same costs like that include VAT, like you will have a higher price, and it will be really disadvantageous for you because that's what I say, companies do not want to be in this side. Banks, they like try a lot to be like taxable, that their services are subject to VAT, because if not, if it's a bank who have a lot of costs because it rent a very expensive building and everything, it will have higher costs because all of that will have VAT. And that's why like you see that if some exemptions are in the middle of the change, they create the worst effect because it's really like high prices and the VAT is even more than what you see. With this, I give you a little bit of overview how everything works. You know, you can even have increased rates, like normally I explain with reduced rates and everything. In the European Union, at least, they don't have, and the majority of the countries do not have increased rate on VAT. However, in Latin America, it's very like typical that also countries include increased rate on certain items. And there you will have also the same problems that you could have with a reduced rate, but with increased rate. And that's why, at least you know that that is also a possibility. But when we talk about VAT, the best it will be have a one single rate, if possible. When we go to like advantages, this is advantages of the system. Well, like some of the advantages of a VAT is that it's a broad base. You know, you cannot say I'm buying like, I don't know, water because the cola have VAT and the water not. Everything that you know that you drink will have a VAT. Everything will have the same rate. That's what I say, you will not change your consumption because of VAT. Later on, it's difficult to avoid because, as I say, you know, every company that is buying something and it's selling it would like to really have the invoice, would like to have clear which is the VAT that they have paid, because they will be allowed to deduct it. And that's why they have an audit trial. The companies are the auditors of the other companies asking for the invoices. They have high rates because, as I say, you know, you don't see it. They have at the moment rates until 27%. Like there is not really a big effect on the income of VAT for the government, the revenue, even when they are economic crisis. If you have a big economic crisis, you will see it immediately that companies are not paying income tax because a crisis, there is losses for companies do not pay VAT. But consumption, even if there is a crisis, well, we will all buy less clothes, we will all go less to restaurants, we will all consume less, but we still live to consume. We need to consume for our normal life. And that's why there is always the revenue of consumption taxes, VAT, it's less like fluctuated even with economic crisis. Low tax collection costs, well, I already told you that the nice taxable persons, companies, and everybody is like the assistant of the government is the one who do all the administrative work and is the one collecting the money for the governments and sending it to them. That's why for the government it's not very costly. And it's a painless tax. That's the other thing that I mentioned it. You have the VAT, you pay it, and if I say to all of you how much income tax you pay, you will have an idea how much income tax you pay. If I ask any one of you, well, the people that they live in a VAT country, how much VAT you pay, no one can give me an answer. I don't know myself, because what do you consume during that year? You have to, everything that you consume, you have to know how much. It's impossible. We all pay it, but we don't feel it. From one day to another, they tell us, oh, from tomorrow there is 2% more, because that in Europe in the last year is typical. You wake up and the next day from 19, you are on 21, and you don't feel it. Yeah, maybe when you go to a supermarket, there is like, I don't know, the complete bill is maybe 10 euros more, but you don't feel it every day. And that's why they say that it's a good tax and and it's a painless one. And the other is the economic advantage of VAT. This one I have to put a question mark, because I think have been proved in the last years that it's not really real, because they always say that the level of the VAT rates will affect consumption, that if you put a lower rate, there is more consumption. In the European Union was a lot of experiments and documents about higher demand, higher employment if you put reduced rate on certain sectors. But an experiment, one of the issues that it happened 2 years ago, even in France, there were restaurants that were complaining that their prices were really high, that they wanted more tourists and they wanted more people going to restaurants. Suddenly the French government say, okay. Suddenly they did not have, let's imagine, the 20% standard rate. From 1st of January, I don't know, it was 2018, they have like the reduced rate. They can put the 5%, let's say. And well, it became the first of the year, the 1st January of the year that they have to implement it. And suddenly you were going to the same restaurant as the day before, and the menu did not change. The prices did not change. They were complaining. They wanted a lower rate because the prices were really high. But the majority of the restaurant did not change the menus. What it means, it didn't have the effect that it's supposed to have. But, well, they make a good lobby. Today, if you go to France, at least you pay the reduced rate on restaurant services. When, like before, you were going to pay the standard rate, but the difference, I don't know. But they will tell you that there is. And the second one is the neutrality. The VAT system is all based on the principle of neutrality. On this principle, you can talk sometime hours. Going to try to make it very simple what it means. We have legal neutrality. That means that more you consume, more you pay. Less you consume, less you pay. It's proportional. The tax is proportional to your consumption. It's a tax on consumption. Later we go to this once in a while, it's economic neutrality, that it doesn't matter what inputs you have for an activity, if you outsource things or if you do it in-house, what you do, because everything has VAT. It doesn't matter. You are not going to create your business or draw your business based on what it has and what doesn't have VAT, because the final effect of you as a business is exactly the same. The internal neutrality, when we talk about VAT, you don't only tax consumption when you are selling something, but also your own consumption of goods or services of your own business, you should subject to VAT. Everything should be subject to VAT. If I have a company which produces water, and suddenly I decide to take some water to my house, because I also drink water at home, I will have to pay the VAT for that bottle of water, because it's own consumption. I'm taking goods from the businesses. And that is also tax on VAT. And external neutrality, explain it in the example. As I said, when you export something, you should not charge any VAT. No any VAT should go in the price of that goods. And import should be charged VAT at the same rate that is that good or services subject in the internal market. And in that way, you have the external neutrality fulfilled. With advantages, of course, nothing is perfect. We have advantages and disadvantages. Anything that it has, it's a tax on consumption. What they happen is they have like a lot of people talk about the regressivity of the VAT, because of course, if you are like a very rich person where your income is very high, you're not going to spend everything on consumption. You're going to consume a lot, but you're going to invest or save or do something. But if you're a lower income like person, you will have to consume everything, because what you get, you need it for your normal life. And that's why it says that the proportionality, in reality, the poor pay more than the rich. And there are some ideas of solution, but they are all with question mark, because these solutions, they are not perfect. You can put, well, as I say, like a reduced rate to basic necessity. But of course, if you put reduced rate to bread and to milk and everything, the rich are buying more bread and milk than the poor sometimes. That means they are benefiting even more. You can put increased rate to luxury goods. Well, okay, that's, you know, a diamond, it will not be bought by someone poor and everything. There you could have an effect, but again, more rate you put, more complicated you create the system, and other problems can come there. Exemptions, well, you can put certain exemption for medical care or medical services, you know, for everything, but you benefit everybody anyway, because the rich, they also go to like the doctors, and that's what I say. All of these are different rules. There is, I didn't put there, but like quite a lot of like countries now, they are trying to see things in a different way. I cannot remember the last time that we were in the Global Forum of the OECD, but one country was explaining that they give their taxpayers a car, and the ones that they have until certain amount of income, and when they go to buy something, they go with that car, and they will not pay VAT. At least that it's simple, and I think that could be a remedy, that they have certain ID or something, and in that way, you are really like giving the benefit to the person that they deserve it, and not to everybody or things like that. These days, there are like more modern ways of like redistributing this to the, let's say, the people that they need it, and make the system a little bit less regressive. The administrative burden is a big problem, because, okay, here is again, companies. As I say, companies do not pay €1 VAT, but companies will be affected. How? They will be the ones who have to do all the work for the government. There are the partners of the government here. They are the partners which collect the tax for them. And of course, like the problem is that sometimes government do not see that companies, they don't want, in general, a company is in the market to survive and to sell a product or a good or a service. It's not in the market to try to get advantage of the system. And the companies, if they make mistake, because they could make mistakes, they will be the one having all the costs. They will have to pay the penalties, they will have to pay the interest, and more complicated you make the systems, more issues you create on, like making, for example, if you put a lot of rates, a company can create a mistake on like applying the wrong rate. And if they make a mistake, the company, they apply the rate of 5 when they should apply 20, suddenly they charge something with 5%. When the tax administration comes, they should have charged 20. They have a 15% loss. And 15% could be all the income and all the profit that that company have on that goods. And that's why it's a big problem, this one. But that's what I say, you should create a simple system for like companies to make the less error possible and be the less work possible also for them to administrate. And the last one, which is the biggest one, the fraud. The high taxes, of course, attract fraud. And these days, the fraud on VAT at the European Union level 2 months ago was the last report, and per year the fraud is 168 billion euros in the European Union. If you see that numbers, well, and I'm not going to say, but it's not so difficult to create fraud. Of course, you have to first start with the bad intentions, because no one will think that is in this world to do it. But of course, a criminal, instead of having to go outside and have to go with a gun to do something, and having to write a paper and presenting it and being able to steal a lot of money, well, there are a lot of criminals of white gloves, and they are the ones that they do the fraud. There is a problem. And like that's why if you're going to create a system, please, there are solutions also. But countries, when they have VAT for a long time, it's more difficult to put the solution in place. You should do it from the beginning. When you start the system, put the solutions that they do not create these high problems. Now, I'm going to give you like a little bit for the importance, the percentage of taxations of like VAT. I'm missing the numbers there, but in average on the OECD country, 20% of the revenue of the government is on VAT. If I will do this for the Latin American countries, it's even 40%. I think like if you accumulate all the ICMS, ISS, IPP, and like all the COFIN and PIS and everything that you have in this country, the list is long, I know, and if you accumulate all of that, I'm sure we arrive 40-50% of the total revenue of the country. Yeah, well, you can imagine of the amounts.
We are about 35.
35, okay. Yeah, well, that's a big amount. And that's what I say, like, it collects a lot of money. That's when you are thinking on a system, please think the best way because it's really an important income for the government. And also when we go to see VAT, how it's compared to other taxes, like a lot of time countries see that the revenues related to income tax and everything is going lower. Countries are like going down on the areas of like rates of income tax to companies and everything that countries try to give incentives and they put lower rates on corporate tax. But if you go to VAT, the rates are going up and the revenues are also going up, and this is in the last years what it happened also at the OECD level. A little bit to explain what is important of this tax at a national level. Now I will explain a little bit how the legislation on the European Union, I consider that this is maybe important for Brazil. I don't know, like, hope that we all also consider important because how the European Union managed their VAT, because also they have one rule, let's say one legislation, main legislations, and if you consider the European Union at the moment, there are 28 member states. We have like this small item that is called Brexit with a question mark. You must have heard about it, that we are every day like knowing when it will happen. Now it's supposed to 35th of October, but I don't think it's going to happen. The 19th was going to be the D-Day for them to see if it's happening or not. But okay, we talk about, yeah, we talk about 28, 27 member states. You can really compare this. When I'm talking about the European Union, maybe you can think about Brazil, because also maybe if we look at the size, it will be like Brazil with their 26, 27 like states, you know, the 26 states and the federal district. You can compare is the same, you know, how they manage with one legislation, well, what you can learn from them. Let's try to get it like this. And I have to go there. They have the legislation, they have one main rule that it is the directive on VAT, and they have some regulations. The regulations like are apart from the directive. The directive is addressed to the member states. That means they tell the member state, this is the rules that we will have that you follow. That is all. And how this legislation is created, and the regulations, I will go later there, is created by a proposal. The Commission, the European Commission, which is in Brussels, write the law. Later they need two opinions, the opinion of the Parliament and the Economic and Social Committee. After they have the opinion, they need to publish it in the official journal, and it needs to be approved by the European Council. It needs to be approved by the 28 member states. It's one little, you saw the map, if one member state like Cyprus, that is a small island in the middle of the sea, decide that it doesn't like that comma, it will not pass. Everybody needs to agree. And there was like almost 10 years that there was not even a comma change in the directive because, of course, it was impossible. If we are less than 28 here, if we all decide to go tonight for dinner and we start, at what time we go? 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock? No, I want this. I want to eat Chinese. I want to eat Indian. I want to eat like, well, okay, I'm sure we will not get in accordance at what time we are going tonight to have dinner. Imagine all of them, they have to decide on the rules what they will be applying for their countries. It's very difficult, but okay. Some things happen and they agree on there, but it's unanimously. That is also trying to change, but for the time being, it's still unanimous. On VAT, as I say, there are different directives. The first one on VAT, it's like the European Union had VAT in 1967, second directive. Like 10 years later, they changed it what is called the sixth directive. Some people, the old people, like this one, they must heard about it. And in 2006, there was a big rewrite of it, and it was what it is now, the Directive 2006-112. If you want to read it, well, like you will see later, it's in 24 languages, and it's also in Portuguese. You can read that. And these directives, we have also small directives about refunds of VAT, because as I told you, when you export something, sometimes you need to ask refunds, and that's our different directives. And we have other small directives related to import goods, so small consignments, and other things that they are also taking place. That is related about directive. But we also have, I mentioned to you, regulations. What are the regulations? And what are the role that they play? The regulations are binding for the member state. When the Commission decides something on a regulation, they write a regulation, that regulation is obligatory. Member state cannot say, Article 5 of the regulation, I do not like it. They have to apply it. And that's what I say. There we have two main regulations on VAT. One is related to mutual assistance. Of course, you have 28 member states, and they have to be mutual assistance between these member states, and this is decide how it's going to be done by the Commission. And therefore, that is obligatory. And the second one that is very important is the implementing regulation, and that's why it gives you some definitions, some issues that they were in the directive that they need interpretations. It's a kind of interpretation of the rules of the directive. And also, it was decided that that terminology, for example, the concept of fixed establishment, it will be given in the regulation. They will tell you what is a fixed establishment or not. You will have maybe rules in the normal national legislation, but the rules about what is considered a fixed establishment is done under the regulation, and you must follow. Talking about that, how this works, and what are the elements, because, okay, how it happened that they can have all of this, and it's really harmonized. There are three instruments that they use to maintain the system harmonized. Three kind of different instruments. The first one is the European Court of Justice. The Court of Justice of the European Union is not in Brussels, it's in Luxembourg. We have in Luxembourg a nice big building where we'll decide all cases when there are problems in the European Union. And as I mentioned to you, the directive, it comes in 24 authentic languages. That means that if you are even in the UK, but you want to read the Portuguese directive because you are Portuguese and you read that, it's okay. You can use the Portuguese because it doesn't matter. It comes in all the languages or are equally valid. But we all know, when the ones that we speak more than one language, that sometimes a term in one language, it cannot be translated into another. It's impossible. And that's why there is a lot of problems sometimes on interpretation, because something is similar but not the same. And later on, we have all these directives, and we have to transpose it, and suddenly we have 28 national acts. Each national act, each country, like for example, the Netherlands, where I live, they have the Dutch VAT Act. Spain have the Spanish VAT Act, Portuguese VAT Act. Every country have transposed the rules. Of course, sometimes there are problems in the transpositions. If there is a problem, what happened? Of course, you will get that the Commission start an infringement procedure to the country, where it will go and say, look, we have seen that you did not interpret it, the VAT grouping regulation, in the correct way. You have to change it. They give you 2 months. Again, goes the second time. We told you 2 months ago that you have to change it. You didn't do it. After a while, of course, they have to start an action, and they start an action, and they go to the Court of Justice of the European Union. That's one process. When there is problem of transposition, that may be problem between the Commission and the member state. But later we have the second problem that we all know very good, and quite a lot of you deal daily with that there are the problems that they are between the taxpayers, the ones who have to apply the law, and the tax administration, the interpretation of what the tax administration has said. When you get into a problem between a taxpayer and a tax administration, where do you normally go? To the court of your country. You go to the national court, but suddenly the court do not know because it's something related to the directive. They will send it to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court doesn't know because it's related to the directive again. They go there, they have doubts, they go what they call preliminary question, because these are questions from the courts, from the national courts of one country to the Court of Justice. This is the second way. There are two ways of entering cases to the Court of Justice. The Court of Justice will decide, will give their interpretation, and this is law. Every country, every member state must follow what the Court of Justice said. At the moment, there are 900 cases on VAT, and all of them, there are law. That means member states need to apply them. And that is one of the instruments that they have to harmonize the rules when there are problems between these 28 different member states. The second one is the complaint procedure. What is this? Well, if you want to complain about something, feel free, because all of you can complain even being here in Brazil. Anyone in the world can complain about any rule in the European Union, any rule, any regulation, even administrative things, because there is a lot of complaint about Italy. I always put the Italians because they never give refund. For example, you are a Brazilian company, you are asking a refund of VAT to an Italian government, and the Italian government is not giving it to you. They have a period where they have to give you the refund, that is few months, but suddenly Italy take 1 year, 2 years, and that's why they have a lot of infringement procedures, because anyone can complain that Italy, I'm saying if you are involved, you can complain, but also if you are not involved, suddenly tomorrow, I told you that the directive is in Portuguese, you start reading the directive, and you decide to read the Portuguese VAT Act. You can do both, and suddenly you start reading one and the other, you say, this doesn't match. There is something here that it was not correct implementation. Well, you can go tomorrow to the form in 1999 in the official journal or online. If anyone needs it, I can give you the link. You go there and you fill it a form. But it's great because you have some guarantees. They will be confidential. No one will know that you complain. You can complain. I know some lawyers or that they are the advisor of a company, and when they don't agree with something to the government, they send a complaint to the commission because they say, well, like the law of my country, like they use it to make the commission start these infringement actions. No one will know that you did it. They will give you a number. They have to proceed within 12 months, and you are going to be notified of everything that it happened. And that is, well, another way that the union consider that in this way, you are giving the right to everybody to inform you that something is not going right through this complaint procedure. That is another instrument. And the third one is the VAT committee. This one is formed by the representative of all the member states, plus the chair is from the commission. And here what they do, they discuss about certain rules. They say, well, okay, any one of the 28 member states can come with a topic to discuss, or someone of the commission can decide on a topic because, for example, they have a problem with renting immobile property because there is a very detailed rules, and one of the countries say, I don't know how to apply these special rules about immobile property. Can you tell me how you do it? And they discuss and they produce what they are the VAT guidelines. And these guidelines were first not published because it was only an interpretation of the directive done by the member state for the use of them. But suddenly, of course, there is always someone who gets one, the other who gets another, and it was decided in 2012 that they were going to be published. But the issue, these guidelines are not binding. You are not obliged to follow, as the governments are not obliged to follow. But I know taxpayers that they have used the guidelines, go to the government and say, well, your government have been present in this meeting and they agree that this is the way. We use these guidelines to make our rules in our company. They are not obliged, but at least you have something. If you have a problem and you don't know, you can go to the guidelines. They are all in the European Union website. There are also a lot. But if you have a problem in a topic, you go there and you look if you have one. At least they can give you. All of this can be helping of you, because if you implement a VAT, at the moment, it's not only, as I say, the Court of Justice is not only used in Europe. When you go to Australian case law, a lot of courts in Australia, because you know Australia, they use a lot of the UK court cases and all that, they referred in the decision of the court, the judge referred to a court case in the European Union, because it's much easier for them to say, look, we have the same principles, and in the European Union was already decided in this case in this way. Also, the Canadian court refers a lot to the European cases. There are courts worldwide that in their judgment, they refer to cases already decided by the Court of Justice. That's why in the future could be also useful for you to interpret your own rules. With this, we have everything related to the, I have to look there, harmonization. Now, I will give you what are the elements that a VAT system has and how they are all together in a frame. I don't have control of the timing, I don't know. Okay, well, I have at least that's why I say I have a lot of presented, but I want to, this part, make it sure. Every country will have supply of goods and services. They will be done by a taxable person. You will have a consideration, and you will have that they happening within a country. It has to happen within a country to have the VAT, this subject to VAT. These will be taxable supplies. Later on, when you have something taxable, you will have to go to the law and say, well, is this something that is subject to VAT, that is tax, or there is something that is exempt? Because as I mentioned, there could be exemption, medical services, financial services. If it's something exempt, you will not do anything else. If it's something tax, you will have to calculate what is the taxable amount. Every topic that I mentioned it here, they have a lot of case law and a lot of issues in itself. I give sometimes classes about the taxable amount of 3 hours. Only about that, about every of these topics, I give classes of 2 or 3 hours. The one that I have followed here, the course, they know more. I have been discussing all of them. You can be discussing this for ages. But well, you have to calculate the taxable amount, which sounds simple, but it's not. Later, you have to know which rate to apply. Do you apply the standard rate, the reduced rate, and if you put increased rate, the increased rate, or whatever rate. Or you have to know, oh, this is something zero rated, it's something that is exported, and therefore it should be zero. That means it's a positive, you will have the right to deduct. Or it's something, for example, under a special scheme. I know here, even in Sao Paulo, you have the scheme for the simple, that is for small businesses. Well, like in the European Union, we have what is registration threshold. If you are under a registration threshold, you will be exempt. That's our special scheme. We have another special scheme for travel agents. You know, you can have something in your legislation that you tax in a different way. And that could be done by a special scheme. What it means, you go outside the system in a different way. In the European Union, at the moment, there are 5 different special schemes. And later, we have one more figure that it appeared in the last years. When I used to explain this 10 years ago, this was not there. But now, we have to even look who have to pay the tax, who have to remit the tax to the government. Because I'm not sure if you all hear about the concept of revert charge. Traditional was always the supplier which collect the tax and pay the tax. But in the last year, because of what I mentioned it before, these things of fraud, sometimes it's even the customer which have to collect the tax and remit it to the government. But okay, that's also another part. You have also deemed supplies of goods and services. Is, for example, what I mentioned to you, the own consumption. When you take the bottle of water from your company and you take it home, that will be what we consider a deemed supply of goods or services, will be by a taxable person within a country, but we will not have a consideration. But of course, the law tells you what should be the consideration. Not going to. And later on a VAT system, we say that all kind of imports will be subject to VAT, but also imports are done by final consumers, because we all decide tomorrow to import a laptop. That laptop will be above certain amount. Of course, we will have an amount that maybe we should not pay VAT, but if it's a laptop of $1,000 for sure, you will have to pay the VAT because you are going to consume it yourself. It's a tax on consumption. That's why all imports, whoever imports, will have to pay VAT. And when I explain the European system, we have something else, that is the intra-community acquisitions of goods, because if I have the time, I will explain you that concept. That is when, because inside of this big VAT territory of the European Union, we don't have imports and exports between the member states. What we have is a different concept, that there are intra-community supplies, what it will be an export, intra-community acquisition, what will be an import. And that's why when we have an inter-community acquisition, an import from one member state to another, we have also a taxable event. And this will be a taxable event, and this is supposed to work for any VAT system. Now I will only go to certain concepts quickly about what it is subject to VAT. In the European Union, we say the supply of goods, the supply of services, the import of goods, and the inter-community acquisition of goods that are taxable. What we should divide? We divide because I know that this had been a lot of discussion with ICMS, ISS, for example, in the digital area, with digital service, are digital goods, are services, what it is, and everything. In the European Union, we have it simple. We say goods is everything that is tangible. Can I touch this glass? This will be a good. Can I touch this paper? This will be a good. And later, what is a service? Anything that is not a good is a service. We do it simple. We don't make a definition of a service. We say anything that is not good. And why we have to distinguish between goods and services? Because they have different place of supply, different rules for taxes, different rates, and different things. We have two examples that I put, for example, restaurants or catering services. You know, a restaurant is a service like that, it's a supply of service because, well, it has been said by the court, because it even was a case in the court, what was a restaurant, was a supply of goods or was a supply of services, have determined that restaurant services are services, but catering, they bring you the food to your house and they leave it in the door and they say, good luck, serve it yourself. That is a good, because they are not serving it to you, that's a good, that's a different. You could say that it's almost the same. It's the same, a book and an e-book. In the European Union, a book is a book. You touch it, it's a good. And if you go, this same books is online. You can buy it an e-book. Well, if you buy this in an e-book, will be a service, because I cannot touch it. It's in my computer, it's inside. You can have the same thing depending on the means that you sell it, that is a good or is a service. But what I say, we make it simple. Anything that is not tangible is service. Rates, we also have very simple. We have one standard rate, two reduced rate. The same rate should apply to everything. There is a proposal, I put it there, the ones who want to know more. It's a very difficult and not simple proposal, but let's leave it there. It's still in a proposal side. And what we do with the reduced rate, we have a clear list. We have a list that is in Annex 3 of the directive, and there you have the list what it can be reduced rate. If it's not there, not any of the member states can use it. These are the rates. This is all information for you that I put it there. Exemptions. Second topic that I consider also important for you. Well, we say that VAT is a general tax, all stage and not cumulative. Therefore, we should not put exemption. Exemption should be the exception to the general rule. And exemptions do not generate output. Whatever you do B2B or B2C, you don't collect VAT, and suppliers cannot deduct any VAT incurred, and therefore, you should not do it. But in the European Union, we have different kinds of exceptions. As I say, we have two types, with and without the right to deduct. The one without the right to deduct, we have two types. The one that there are public interests, that is what I say, that is really for the interest of the community, of the people that they live. Postal services, because everybody should get the letters. It's only used for letters of until 30 grams and whatever. It should be for letters. Medical service, social services, for example, when you buy postcards that they will go to a certain institution and for collecting money for the poor. Education and cultural service, religious institution, and all of that will be not subject to VAT. And we have the other activities, and it was exactly what they were asking. There are some exceptions for immobile property because it's very difficult to tax. Financial services, banking services, insurance, and reinsurance. But that's our other type of exemptions. And I have to say that does not apply everywhere in the world. This is the European Union, because if you go to New Zealand, they will be taxing this, and they will have a way to tax financial services and all these other. But in the European Union, we don't do it. And the exception with the right to deduct is everything that they cross the border, the zero rate, and that are the two ones that we apply. For the right to deduct, I make also one slide. What we need, you normally need the invoice, and you need all the documents related to that. And this is very important that you complied and you keep all the records, because if you don't have it, you will not be able to deduct any VAT. Not going to talk here, but if you are a company which provide exempt and taxable service, you will have a pro rata. That's another topic in itself, how to calculate the pro rata, because not all your input will be deductible. You could have also that not all part is deductible. We have a whole list of things and how to calculate that. That's a little bit of an idea to give it to you. How it works, the European system. In the past, before, like, you know, the abolition of the frontiers in 1992, there was a transaction between Spain and France. You will have an export of goods from Spain and an import in France. After the abolition of 1992, now you have the same in reality, but one is called an intra-community supply, like, which is zero rated, and an intra-community acquisition, which is taxable. That's why I say, when they talk about this concept, intra-community transactions, really always things export, import, and it will be easy. We have, like, you know, an example what it will happen if you provide a supply of goods between the UK and the Netherlands. UK will not tax anything. The Netherlands will have to tax that with Dutch VAT, 21%. And the supplier, the customer, will be the one who declares the VAT. It will not be the supplier here. The customer will account himself as a kind of importation that you account it in this case, you don't account it in the custom office because you are not importing anything. There are not borders, there are not customs, but you will account in your VAT return by this VAT. Of course, if you have the right to deduct, you will be allowed to deduct it. We have two different exceptions only for supply of goods, that there is the supply of goods with installation and assembly. And in this case will be always, it doesn't matter if you sell it to a company or to a private consumer, like always when you install something in the other country, it's always by default in the country where the installation is taking place. This is France. And we have another scheme that is the special scheme from distance selling. It's only applicable to B2C, business to final consumers. Let's imagine we sell the books. Now I'm with the book here. We sell the books to final consumers in all Europe. And what are you going to do? First of all, it will be Dutch VAT if you sell for a small amount. As soon as you pass an amount, depending on the country, 35,000 euros or 100,000 euros, you will have to register and charge VAT on the country where the consumer it is. Therefore, at the moment, you will have to register in 28 member states if you supply goods to 28 member states. This, it's only until 2021. Because on 2021, we are going to change, this system will disappear. And we will use what maybe you heard about, the one-stop shop arrangement that we use today for services. How we do it? We go there. Now we go to how we tax services, because there is how we tax goods, now how we tax service in a very 5 minutes presentation. Like in general, B2B services are always taxed as goods in the country where the customer is established, and here is under that concept of reverse charge mechanism. And in B2C, we have, in general, is where the supplier is established, because it's very difficult, you know, if you supply goods, services for 28 member states to charge there. But that also will change in 2021. But for the time being, the main rule is the supplier. But we already have for many, many years, like that, in the case of TV services, like there are telecommunication, broadcaster, and electronic services, is the place of supply is where the customer is established. Anyone downloaded a movie in any country of the European Union as a final consumer or downloading an app in their phone, their company, even though it's in another country, will have to charge the VAT of that country. How we do it to collect it? Like, well, here is the B2B case. There is an advisory which is running. The advisor will not have to charge any VAT, and the client in Belgium, because it's a client, it's a business register, will have to account with the VAT under the reverse charge. How the reverse charge work? I'm passing quickly to explain you everything. The reverse charge, a normal supply, it's the supplier charge you the VAT, and he remit it to the tax administration, you deduct it, and the reverse charge is the customer, which is the one who declared the VAT and deduct it if he have the full right to deduct. And the thing is different. Now, when we talk about e-commerce, as I say, in the European Union are special rules for everything related to electronic services more, and they charge and they collect the VAT in a simplified way on these 28 member states. The main rules for goods are the same that we have seen it, I already explained it, but how it works for e-services. I make an example. If you're a Brazilian company and you provide services, let's imagine that you develop an app and you sell this app to customers in Luxembourg, Austria, and Denmark. And when you sell this app, you are going to charge them €1 to each one of them. Well, if you follow the normal rules, you will have to register in each one of the 28 member states that you are supplying your app. They say, well, because we want that non-resident suppliers, already in 2003 they put this, they register and they collect the VAT and everything, we are going to allow them to use a simplified regime that they can choose one member state to register, and in that member state they can fulfill all their obligations. They don't have to come to the European Union. They are like doing everything online. They will register, they fulfill quarterly returns, they will collect the VAT. Your Brazilian company will collect the VAT of Austria, like 20%, of Luxembourg 17%, of Denmark 25%, and at that moment will make one VAT return every 3 months. They will send the money to the UK. They will not be allowed to deduct any VAT. You can imagine why, no? Because if not, well, there will be more people asking money than paying money. And that's what I say. We will give you a refund. If you have any expensive in our country, whatever of the 28 member states, you can apply for a refund. But it's through another directive, the 13th directive. And you apply for the refund, and for the time being, the record can be audited by the 28 member states. This is how it works. You send the money to the UK redistributes it. This is a system that also, if you think of Brazil, you could use it. People could choose one state of registration, from there collect all the VAT, and later what the UK do, the UK distribute, of course, that money to all the other member states. Of course, for the time being, they charge a small commission to do it, because of course they have all the administrative burden and everything. They charge a commission, but they collect the money and redistribute it to the rest. These rules, well, there. Well, like, of course, every time that you are going to sell something, the most important is that you have to check, is a B2B, is a B2C, and when you do with electronic things, they have certain rules because when you are a company, they say that if you are in the business of like selling online, the client in 30 seconds, the client decide to buy or not. If you ask too many questions, the client will say, okay, I'm doing something, oh, this nice dress, I want to buy it, You start doing the form, but if they start asking, where is your country of residence? What is your address? Where is your business, I don't know, where you have your business? If they ask you 10 questions, I don't have time to buy this dress. You let it and you continue. That's what they have to ask you, as less questions as possible, but in all that question, they have to know which VAT to charge, because until that moment, they don't know. They have to know. They have to ask you questions, and that's why the system, normally, they have to have one of these, and if you don't know, they give you also another list. I'm making it very simplistic today, everything, because it's very difficult, but you have to use, you have to check the credit card, you have to check the mobile phone that is using the SIM card, you have to make some assumption. For the time being, you have to use 2 elements, but in the future, if you are a business that you sell less than 100,000 euros, you can choose one thing, like, for example, the credit card, and you will charge, I said, German credit card, you charge German VAT. They use a Brazilian credit card, you don't charge any VAT if you're in the European Union, because they should not pay there, and things like that. But these are the elements that they have to use. 2021, the VAT will be modernized in the European Union, and they have considered that this system is a complete success. I have all my reservations. I'm not going to say it now, but they are going to even extend it. All that distance selling that I told you about, goods, having to register, having limits, and everything will disappear. Here I put the rules. It's not, and they will even do it when you import goods. At the moment, if you import goods into the European Union, we have what is the limit of 22 euros. We are having a lot of problems because there is a lot of Chinese companies selling things for very cheap price. There is no VAT collected. There is a lot of damage of competition and everything. 2021, all of this will disappear. Because today, if you send something from let's say from Brazil to the European Union, if it's less than 22 euros, the customer will not pay any VAT. And if they buy the same things in the internal market, they will have to pay VAT. And that is a big problem. But this 2021 disappear, and I make a slide how it will work the whole system from 2021. They will also allow to non-residents, as I told you about the app, when you supply goods that are lower than 150 euros to customers in the European Union, you can collect the VAT from Brazil, and remit it to the government in the UK. If you decide on the UK, maybe there the UK will not exist in the European Union, that you have to choose another country, and and you will do the same. Of course, if you supply goods, the rules are different. I put it all in red, the different rules for you to know. You have to have a representative and a little bit more, because if not, there will be a lot of problems. But you see that it goes, really, the European Union, that is 27 member states, they are going more and more, and they want to arrive even in July 2022 to completely use a one-stop shop arrangement for everything that is happening in the European Union, even B2B, everything. They want to use it from 2022. That means that companies will have to register in one country only and collect the VAT and make all this distribution system of money between countries. There is a lot of problems and there is a lot of concern, because of course governments, there is not the same government of Italy or Romania as the government of the Germany or the Swiss government. There are different way of trustability. There is a lot of problem that the Swiss, they don't trust the Greek, because the Greek, they are always making, that the Greek suddenly will collect the money for them, for the Swiss, and to pay the salary of the Swiss. And there is a lot of problem, but it seems that they are, I don't know how, agreeing, because there are 28 different countries and they are agreeing. It's a model that it maybe could be used in Brazil, I don't know. But it's in the European Union, every time more, it seems that people start trusting each other. With this, I want to mention refunds, and I think we are going to finish, because if not, I'm out of time. But well, in the European Union, we have three kinds of refunds. Taxable persons in the country, like you will do it, you are in Brazil. Taxable persons to people that they, for example, export a lot. You will be the refunds. They are normal taxpayer. You will have certain information. We have taxable persons which are in another member state of the European Union. There are different rules. And also a refund for even Brazilian companies that they have some costs in the European Union, but they don't have any business there, even to countries outside the European Union. You have in my slides that you can ask to get it later if you want, all the rules that they are applying today. There is certain rules, certain timings and everything. And with this, I think I would like to finish my presentation, because I was going to say something about the OECD, but I think there is not enough time. But at least I wanted to give you a little bit of overview what is happening in Euro and everything, and what are the main rules. You have also in my presentation everything related to the OECD, and maybe we'll go, I'm not going to explain the OECD, but I put also a slide. This is what the OECD is mentioning, that countries, a slide which countries are doing about the digital economy, what countries are already taxing them. I also make a slide prepared about Latin America, that they are doing completely different than the OECD recommendations. There are, of course, the Latins, we are always trying to create something different, and it stays to go into the one-stop shop arrangement that is also implemented in the majority of the Asian countries, some African countries, Australia, New Zealand, of course, and everything. Like the Latin Americas, we are more believing in ourselves and using more the withholding systems. But after saying that, I also they are using both model, because Colombia goes to both, for example, and also Costa Rica now both to goes. They have the one-stop shop arrangement like the European Union, but at the same time, they have the withholding system as a extra security, let's say it. Argentina went, for example, completely to the withholding system. You have an overview what is happening today in Latin America, and I also put an overview of what is happening worldwide, what the other countries are doing. And I finished my presentation saying that, well, there is a lot of need of harmonization. There are a lot of challenges with digitalization. There is more about platforms. I don't have the time to talk about the role of platforms, because every time more the roles, the business that we live today, they are not the business of 20 years ago when VAT was implemented, or even 60 years ago in the European Union. And that's why we have to think, and we have also a lot about the sharing economy. At the OECD level, there is a lot of work also done on the sharing economy, digitalization, platform, and all of that. And more we will need cooperation between countries to know what is going on and where things should be taxed. But we also have to know that on VAT, the jurisdiction tax stop at the border of our country, because we have a jurisdictional element, because it's a consumption tax. And we have to also look at not putting too much obligation to companies, because they are in the end the partners of the government. They are not the one guilty of anything. They are only helping the government to collect the tax. And with this, I would like to thank you for your time and for hearing me. You come here, like. I will give you.
Bom, acho que nesse momento o que eu devo fazer é, em nome do IBDT, em primeiro lugar, parabenizar a professora Fabiola pela exposição, que realmente foi abrangente, panorâmica e detalhada, né? Eu estive agora algumas horas falando em espanhol com ela, mas eu tenho certeza que ela vai me compreender melhor em português. Como o nosso público é brasileiro e ela demonstrou falar muito bem português, eu vou seguir nesse idioma. Realmente eu acho uma apresentação brilhante. Parabenizar também o Vitor Policelli por aproveitar essa viagem da professora Fabiola, que dará classes, e trazê-la para esse debate aberto. O IBS não é tão simples assim, hein? São muitos detalhes. Feitas essas considerações e te agradecendo, professora Fabiola, eu vou falar realmente alguma coisa muito breve para dar tempo que meus colegas façam os seus comentários e que a professora Fabiola possa também ouvir os questionamentos dos colegas, né? Realmente, é Lucas, né? O Lucas, você pode só colocar o Eric, desculpa, sabia que não é Lucas. Eu estou com uma apresentação na área de trabalho, por favor. Tem o nome Fabiola no meio. Isso. Perfeito. Se puder passar. Então sou eu que passo. Realmente eu não vou. São poucos slides e eu não vou passar por todos, mas isso aqui é uma tabela bem conhecida de todos, com a distribuição das cargas de acordo com as possíveis grandezas que podem ser tributadas. Eu acho que todo mundo já meio que conhece isso aqui, né? O que eu gostaria de chamar a atenção para todos aqui, também para a professora Fabiola, é a nossa posição em relação à tributação sobre a renda, 21%, a média é 34%, a CDE. Tributação sobre o patrimônio, que no Brasil é 44%, e a média seria 5,5%, costuma ser mesmo reduzida, porque patrimônio, ainda mais patrimônio estático, se eu tributar ainda que 1%, em 100 anos eu tenho, né, uma apropriação. Porém, eu tenho que fazer um disclaimer aqui. Nesse 4,4% do Brasil, a principal parte está em imposto do carro, imposto sobre a propriedade de carros, que é uma coisa bem disseminada pela população. Nós somos uma população que consome carro, né? Na crise econômica, o carro é um bem que tem a sua variação muito rápida, e alguns imóveis urbanos. Se eu pego a propriedade rural aqui, a arrecadação do ano é de 1 bilhão apenas, né? Ela não aparece no gráfico. Na média de recolhimento por declarações, dá algo como R$900 por pessoa, média, que declarou. Então, alguma coisa está errada aqui. E no consumo, eu tenho quase 50%. Por que eu só coloquei esse gráfico aqui? Em primeiro lugar, realmente eu admiro o trabalho das pessoas que estão engajadas num debate sobre reforma tributária e que têm colocado essa questão de um alinhamento da nossa tributação sobre o consumo com as melhores práticas internacionais. Nós temos que admirar essas pessoas. Elas estão dando palestras todos os dias, estão colocando suas ideias à prova, estão sendo criticadas, etc. E hoje eu percebo o quanto a gente evoluiu nesse debate, só nesse plano aqui das ideias. Então, realmente, nas minhas convicções pessoais, hoje eu estou muito mais convergindo, me aproximando desse debate do que qualquer coisa. Então, se nós temos uma tributação sobre o consumo, de fato, nós temos que nos aproximar de alguma coisa, porque ela é a recomendação econômica mesmo, de uma tributação do estilo do IVA ou do IBS, não é? Base amplas, não cumulativo, cálculo por fora, por um mínimo de transparência, de arrecadação, tudo isso. O que eu só gostaria de alertar é quando eu tenho uma tributação de 50% sobre o consumo, eu tenho que tomar um certo cuidado aqui, porque uma tributação indireta sobre o consumo, ela tem sim uma carga regressiva. Tentar misturar um pouco isso, tentar minimizar isso, pode ser um desserviço para o debate. Tentar falar que a população pobre consome cosméticos é uma coisa meio caricata, tem que tomar um certo cuidado com isso, né? Convido a todos ao exame da divulgação agora do orçamento familiar, do consumo do orçamento familiar. A POF saiu há poucos dias, né? Consumo, cigarro, cosméticos, é muito pouco disso, né? As pessoas gastam com comida e habitação, né? Então, esse é um pequeno alerta. Quando nós tivemos um debate sobre reforma tributária, né, no Brasil, quem lê as exposições de motivo daquela época, eu estou falando da década de 60 do século passado, vai ver que nós adotamos um próximo do modelo de imposto não cumulativo sobre o consumo, né? Muito do que deu errado não é o modelo, a diferença entre modelos. Teve muita coisa aqui que foi de legislação, que foi criando exceções e descumprimento de regras. Guerra fiscal não é modelo de tributação. Guerra fiscal é crime de responsabilidade. Quando um Estado começa a criar regimes de exceção, isso é desobediência de lei, isso é o antidireito tributário. Estamos em outro lado. A gente não pode tornar essa discussão em polos tão opostos assim, né? Então, na verdade, o que eu chamo a reflexão são alguns só dos desafios para encerrar, para eu poder passar a palavra. Tá? O primeiro, eu tenho que olhar um pouco a carga do Brasil. O Brasil é um país, as experiências internacionais são outras. Naquilo que for tributação que nós queremos ter de carga tributária sobre o consumo, me parece que o modelo de um IBS é o melhor modelo. Ele conserta um monte de coisas. Né? Muitos dos nossos problemas também decorrem do fato que o nosso legislador constitucional não quis atribuir à União Federal um tributo sobre o consumo. Tá? E por conta de importação de ideias e debates econômicos de alguns protagonistas desse debate atual, é que a gente pegou duas contribuições que serviam para a seguridade social e aumentou a carga tributária delas e chamou sobre o consumo e não cumulativo. Isso foi uma diatribe aí, foi uma mágica, um truque, uma prestidigitação que a gente comprou de barato. E agora criou-se a necessidade de fazer um IBS federal. Né? Vejam como a gente perde alguns pontos. Né? Pessoalmente, eu acredito que a melhor forma de tributação num país tem que diversificar suas fontes de tributação. Na linha, por exemplo, de Klaus Tschipke e Joachim Lang, são autores que discutem isso, né, no direito tributário, a partir da Alemanha. Então, eu tenho que ter consumo? Tenho. Tenho que repensar a tributação sobre a propriedade? Tenho. Tenho que repensar a tributação sobre a renda e tenho que atingir uma outra forma de tributação que está fora do nosso radar, que são a das transferências eletrônicas, né, dos pagamentos. Estou falando que um tem que substituir o outro, porque os debates hoje são muito acirrados. Um só quer 50% fora um aumento, né, de um tributo. Né. Eu sei que no ambiente político você gasta muito capital político para tentar vender a sua ideia. Aí sempre fala, eu só participei dessa parte da reforma, a outra vai ficar para um próximo momento. Né? Mas nós, professores, temos que dar uma visão completa, ainda que a solução democrática seja por uma aprovação parcial, de que sou favorável, sim, pelo IBS. Acho apenas que é uma reengenharia institucional desnecessária e talvez cara tentar criar um ambiente único de tributação e administração tributária, que é unir União, Estados e municípios. Eu acho desnecessário. Acho muito do aprendizado europeu foi de convivência entre Estados e União Europeia. Eles têm essa educação em vários assuntos. Eu estudo direito concorrencial também, e eles lidam com isso. no direito concorrencial, com a Comissão Europeia analisando os casos e as legislações nacionais. Eu acho que é muito conceitualismo teórico vender a ideia de que eu preciso ter uma única instância administrativa, sendo chefe de metade dos servidores estaduais de arrecadação, metade dos servidores municipais, todo mundo trabalhando para um comitê. Eu acho que seria muito mais fácil segregar isso entre federal, estadual. Eu vou além, eu acho que deveria ser um IBS trino de 3 instâncias e municipal. Eu acho que muito ainda precisa ser também discutido em relação ao nosso país no critério destino. Se nas transações interestaduais tudo deveria ficar para o destino. Né? Tem muito Estado comprando essa ideia para discutir depois. Né? Acho que deveria ter margem aqui. O que eu defendo é que tenha uma legislação única, nacional, né? De preferência separado, com uma única forma de arrecadação, com a mesma plataforma digital. Hoje isso não é uma invenção, não seria uma invenção. Né? Rever a questão do imposto de renda. As nossas alíquotas de imposto de renda pessoa física, tanto nas suas deduções quanto nas suas graduações, não estão corretas. Eu só posso vender a ideia de que metade do tributo tem que ser sobre o consumo se eu reequilibrar a parte redistributiva do Brasil no imposto de renda e sobre o patrimônio e nas transações financeiras. Eu não tenho como vender só parte do milagre. Na década de 60, quando o governo militar introduziu esse sistema, a macroeconomia ali pôde se fazer presente, se entender. Queria atração de investimento estrangeiro, tanto que aumentou a dívida, queria mobilização em capital, de dinheiro para inversões para capital, e colocou essa conta de aumento de receita tributária no consumo. Nós estamos pegando isso e tornando mais agudo, com aumento de carga sobre o consumo, sem essa discussão. Porque, no lugar dessa discussão macroeconômica, a gente transferiu para palavras de ordem como simples, bom, novo. Essa parte de autoajuda de internet que me incomoda um pouco. Precisamos discutir, sim. Porque se uma indústria hoje paga, somando as alíquotas, transformando por dentro, por fora, mais do que 25%, e a alíquota que se avizinha por aí é de 25%, é porque tem gente que está pagando menos. Então, esse equilíbrio tem que tomar cuidado. Me assusta quando a macroeconomia, a ideia econômica por trás do modelo é a eficiência natural alocativa dos recursos. Isso me preocupa. Nenhum país usa isso. Isso só está em manual. Tá? Todo país tem a sua estratégia. Você pode discutir uma tributação uniforme na União Europeia, mas você vai ter uma política, de alguma forma fiscal, para a sua agricultura, para o seu comércio internacional. Os Estados Unidos rodam o modelo de controle de concorrência, de venda de empresas, como por um tribunal de concorrência deles e pela Suprema Corte. Nos Estados Unidos é o FTC, no Brasil é o CAD. Quando alguma empresa estrangeira ameaça comprar uma empresa americana, você sai do fluxo normal e sobe para uma secretaria que está atrelada ao presidente dos Estados Unidos. E eles falam, não. Então, a estratégia de cada país, né, não pode ficar obscurecida. Mas eu realmente elogio todos os trabalhos que são feitos numa uniformização para a tributação do consumo. Eu já sou um defensor, eu brinco com a minha amiga Lina, que eu falo, poxa, não, temos que ir por esse caminho aqui. Né, divergimos em um outro ponto na questão do IVA dual, ou uno, trino, ou dual, né, mas temos que caminhar por aí, mas temos que ter esclarecimentos econômicos. Nas minhas contas, com a equipe de economistas, por exemplo, a alíquota de equilíbrio entre a tributação atual e um IBS seria 21,7%, que daria esse 50% da tributação. Se eu já jogo 25%, que é a famosa taxa de medo da administração fazendária, eu já estou aumentando esse 50%, eu estou transformando o país mais regressivo. Não vamos esquecer, aproveitar que temos uma professora visitante, que a nossa Constituição Econômica determina como tarefa fundamental redistribuir, reduzir desigualdades sociais e regionais. Nós não somos uma economia pronta em busca de um novo modelo. Nós somos um país tentando superar os seus atrasos. Obrigado, essas são as minhas considerações. E aí eu não sei se eu sou o presidente da mesa, se eu passo a palavra, então, para a Aline e depois para o José. Tá?
Obrigada, José Maria, mais uma vez pelo convite. Parabéns, professora Fabiola, pela apresentação. Especialmente na primeira parte, em que você deu os guidelines do IVA, eu fico muito contente de ver o quanto realmente o nosso trabalho no CECIF converge para, enfim, essas linhas gerais de um bom IVA. Acho que nós seguimos todas elas, né? O José Maria que comentou base ampla, crédito integral e financeiro, que por si só já resolve grande parte dos problemas que a gente tem hoje no Brasil dentro de ICMS e PIS/COFINS com relação à tomada de crédito. A incidência segregada, acho que a gente sabe, em comparação com o sales tax e com o tipo de alíquota que a gente tem no Brasil, com essa necessidade arrecadatória elevada, a gente diminui muito a possibilidade de evasão, quando eu tenho antecipação ao longo da cadeia. E aí eu fiz algumas anotações aqui da sua fala, que eu queria passar alguns pontos, e depois endereçar um pouquinho dos seus comentários também, Zé Maria. O maior problema que a gente tem hoje para a unificação da base diz respeito ao que a gente tem de conflito em ICMS e ISS. Especialmente o setor de serviços tem uma resistência muito grande para a unificação da base com uma alíquota uniforme, né? E a gente sempre trata desse assunto tentando voltar no tempo para entender o porquê essa tributação é tão disforme no Brasil entre serviços e mercadorias. E aí, lá na divisão de competências da década de 60, quando o ISS foi para os municípios, ele era, de fato, um imposto com uma capacidade arrecadatória muito inferior ao IPI e ao ICMS. O IPI era o mais importante, era indústria, ficou para a União, ICMS, mercadoria, bacana, estados, e ISS, municípios. Essa realidade mudou muito com o decorrer dos anos. O IPI, o país sofreu uma desindustrialização, inclusive, precoce, né, do ponto de vista de países em desenvolvimento, houve uma queda muito grande. O ICMS tem uma tendência de queda maior nos próximos anos e o ISS está subindo. Mas, ainda assim, quando a gente teve aquele problema de guerra fiscal entre municípios aqui no Brasil, instituiu-se a alíquota mínima de 2% e a máxima de 5%. E acho que isso fez com que a tributação sobre os serviços também não tivesse margem para crescer, aumentar e chegar mais próxima da tributação sobre serviços. Além disso, o ISS é um imposto cumulativo. Então, essa é a realidade que a gente tem. Então, é uma das maiores dificuldades que a gente tem hoje, é uma grande resistência para trazer todo mundo para a mesma página. O que o CECIF pensou para diminuir essa resistência? O prazo de transição também de 10 anos também foi pensado para isso, para que os preços relativos sejam absorvidos ao longo dos anos e que não tenham impacto imediato no consumo de serviços. Porém, embora a PEC 110 traga essa possibilidade de serviços essenciais serem tributados a uma alíquota inferior, foi um consenso do Centro de Cidadania que a gente não resolveria um dos grandes problemas que a gente tem hoje no Brasil com relação à definição do que é mercadoria em serviços. Embora funcione na União Europeia, né, tudo que é serviço é o que não é mercadoria, a gente tem aqui 2 leis complementares tratando do assunto, né, tem a Lei Candir, tem a Lei Complementar do ISS, e ainda assim a gente tem muito conflito, especialmente na economia digital. Então, acho que aí a gente entra num outro problema com relação não só à ampliação de uma base unificada, mas também de uma alíquota uniforme. Quando a gente pensa em manter os serviços subtributados, como acontece hoje dentro da realidade do Brasil, eu preciso tributar mais também mercadorias para conseguir a mesma arrecadação. Então, quando a gente fala nos 22% ou 25%, e aqui tem, acho que, alguma divergência de cálculo, porque, inclusive, no governo federal fala assim 27%, 28%, eles sobem muito. até porque seriam mantidos algumas isenções e eles já contam com a manutenção da isenção do IBS, que seria um imposto novo dentro da Zona Franca de Manaus, e outras isenções também. Serviços essenciais e, especialmente, cesta básica e medicamentos, né? Então, aí a gente tem um problema de equalização de alíquotas, né? Acho que trazer o setor de serviços para essa nova realidade vai ser muito importante para que, então, todos paguem e todos paguem menos. Acho que é uma grande máxima que a gente segue também no CECIF. Tem uma ideia do setor de serviços, e aí é importante a gente ver a experiência internacional para não criar mais uma jabuticaba brasileira, né? Outra tomada de 3 pinos. Tem se falado, o setor de serviços tem falado em ter crédito, já tem emenda a PEC 45 e a 110, ter crédito sobre a folha de salários, porque eles entendem que a mão de obra é o insumo da produção de serviços. E aí eu gosto de ver sua estranheza, professora, porque realmente não faz nenhum sentido, né? E a gente tem debatido a respeito disso, a folha de salários não paga IBS, portanto, não tem que dar crédito, né? Mas, ainda assim, tem grandes defensores, professores, inclusive, que defendem esse modelo para que o setor de serviços suporte uma carga inferior. E aí tem uma outra questão que eu trago aqui para discussão e para reflexão, que, na realidade brasileira, dentro da média de renda que a gente tem, quem consome serviço é menos de 20% da população, quem consome serviço privado. A grande população, a grande parte da população brasileira, que com certeza até 60% pelas margens de renda, que são as famílias de 5 mil reais, de tantos salários mínimos, eu não tenho todos os números aqui guardados, consomem serviços públicos. E são justamente essas famílias que são as mais... enfim, que sofrem mais a regressividade do imposto sobre o consumo, porque são quem consomem praticamente todo o salário. E aí acabam arcando com essa carga de 50%. Então, essa possibilidade da gente trazer o setor de serviços para uma carga maior e diminuir, então, a parte do imposto sobre mercadorias, isso mexe, sim, no bolso da família de baixa renda. Então, apesar da gente saber que a tributação sobre o consumo por si só é regressiva, um sistema igualitário entre bens e serviços já diminui um pouco essa regressividade dentro da realidade econômica brasileira. E aí um outro modelo que o IBS adota da PEC 45, que é diferente da PEC 110, é a isenção personalizada, que seria, então, eu não dou a isenção para a cesta básica, eu não dou para o produto, mas sim para a pessoa cadastrada que tem uma renda de até 2 salários mínimos. A gente já tem esse cadastro no Brasil, ele é eficiente, a gente tem conversado muito com o pessoal do IPEA, com presidentes, e a dificuldade deles ainda é chegar em lugares muito remotos, então tem-se uma estimativa de que há 1% aí dessa população que ainda não está cadastrada, mas quem está cadastrado funciona e é muito bom. Então, a gente já tem essa base para fazer essa devolução do imposto personalizado. E aí a gente não pode esquecer que, embora seja quase risível e, como a professora Fabiola colocou, uma discussão atrasada de 10 anos atrás, a gente tem visto nos debates sobre reforma tributária, tem se falado sobre imposto único no Brasil também, que é a ideia do Flávio Rocha, enfim, do Brasil 200, que é um instituto grande, que tem vários representantes do varejo, inclusive a Riachuelo, e eu acho que no exemplo da professora Fabiola ficou muito claro para entender o porquê que algumas empresas entendem e defendem esse sistema, porque vai haver, de fato, uma vantagem concorrencial para as empresas que têm sua produção totalmente verticalizada, porque, enfim, a incidência é única interna e você acaba onerando as que têm as etapas da produção divididas em diversas empresas. Por fim, já caminhando aqui para o final, com relação aos benefícios fiscais, concordo também, Zé, que o o Brasil tem proporções geográficas com bastante diversidade que a gente precisaria endereçar, e que ficar somente nessas vocações regionais é um pouco preocupante. Mas é fato que o modelo que a gente tem hoje não funcionou. Acho que nem com relação à seletividade, que é muito difícil a gente conseguir medir o padrão de consumo. Acho que essa última pesquisa mostra um dado interessante. O aumento das famílias em gastos com pet, por exemplo. Isso me chamou muito a atenção. E famílias, inclusive, de baixa renda. E aí, como que a gente coloca isso dentro de um conceito de seletividade contemporâneo? É muito difícil. Acho que dentro de um Estado mais contemporâneo, independente enfim, liberal ou não, é importante que as pessoas tenham essa neutralidade no imposto sobre o consumo, e que elas possam consumir aquilo que elas bem entenderem, independente da carga tributária que onera determinado bem ou produto. Uma outra preocupação que a gente tem com relação ao IBS, e acho que isso tem um pouco de feeling por conta da PEC. A PEC ela é pobre em alguns aspectos, porque é matéria constitucional, né? Então, acho que tem muito do modelo e muito do que foi falado aqui que seria abarcado por uma lei complementar. E acho que, como membro da sociedade, eu não vejo a hora de ver essa lei complementar para a gente poder debater a respeito também e aprofundar um pouco na discussão, para a gente não rebater crítica dizendo não, mas isso é matéria de lei complementar, isso não está na PEC, né? Acho que isso vai trazer mais segurança e vai fazer com que a academia também contribua mais para a elaboração e para afinar esse modelo que a gente tem aí. Uma outra questão que a gente tem, e aí eu gostaria de escutá-la, professora, é com relação... Já fiz essa pergunta para a Rita Della Féria. E a gente tem uma discussão aqui muito grande com os fiscais que participam das nossas reuniões do CECIF com relação ao crédito, se seria aquele pago ou o destacado. Né? Como a gente faria isso? E a professora Rita disse, não, é o destacado, a questão do pagamento, a questão de fraude, e quem tem que fiscalizar isso são as autoridades fiscais. Né? São os fiscais, é para isso que eles servem, afinal. Né? A gente tem uma outra cultura aqui no Brasil, né? A gente tem aqui lançamento por homologação, que acaba onerando muito o contribuinte, e há uma transferência muito grande da atividade fiscal para as empresas. Né? E isso também faz com que as empresas sintam-se pagadoras dos impostos indiretos, sim. E essa é uma máxima que a gente precisa mudar no Brasil. Acho que a fala da professora Fabiola deixa isso bastante claro. O IVA não é pago pelas empresas, né? O IVA é arcado, o ônus econômico tem que recair totalmente sobre o consumidor final. E essa é uma quebra de paradigma muito grande no Brasil, porque não é a realidade que a gente tem hoje. Como a gente tem muita incidência acumulativa, muita isenção no meio da cadeia, muita alíquota diferente, muito acúmulo de crédito, acaba virando o custo da empresa realmente. Além do que, o custo de compliance é enorme, então, ainda que o imposto fosse repassado, o custo de compliance eu não consigo repassar, e as funções da empresa com relação ao cumprimento das obrigações e da própria fiscalização entre cadeia, né? A gente tem aqui jurisprudência sobre, né, boa-fé, e se é fornecedor idôneo, inidôneo, e um monte de checagem que a empresa tem que fazer, e tudo isso vira custo. E aí, essa discussão com relação num sistema simples ou num sistema novo, em que o crédito seria integral, ele deveria, então, ser sobre o pagamento ou sobre a nota destacada? Acho que seria interessante contribuir um pouquinho para a nossa discussão aqui. Acho que, sem dúvida, tem que... Exato. Acho que tem formas, inclusive hoje, com essa modernização e com todo o sistema já informatizado, nota fiscal eletrônica, os municípios agora estão implementando também, já estão com um sistema quase pronto. Teria uma forma, eles nos dizem, de quando o adquirente da mercadoria paga, e como ele já está arcando com ônus, aquele dinheiro, aquele pedaço já sairia direto para pagar, ele não teria que tomar o risco de tomar um crédito sem o pagamento antecipado do imposto. Acho super interessante essa ideia. É possível, os fiscais dizem que é possível de se operacionalizar, né? Bem interessante, mas, enfim, ainda não temos o sistema. Então, fica aqui a pergunta. E aí, uma colocação só, achei muito interessante saber que outros países que adotam o IVA usam as diretrizes da União Europeia. Acho que essa é uma dificuldade que a gente tem aqui no Brasil, né? Nós somos o último país do mundo a tributar bens e serviços com impostos diferentes, em competências diferentes. Então, acho que isso só mostra o quanto a gente está atrasado com relação a essa globalização da tributação sobre o consumo. Acho importante a gente ter isso em mente. E quando você diz que a Corte Superior decide vir a lei, a gente sai de uma realidade no Brasil em que o STF decide algo e a própria Receita Federal não cumpre. Então, é uma quebra de paradigma realmente muito grande, que a gente precisa evoluir do ponto de vista institucional. E aí, por último, minha última fala realmente é que eu vejo, durante todos esses debates que a gente participa diariamente sobre reforma tributária, há um consenso de que a gente precisa mudar o sistema, há quase um consenso de que essa mudança deve ser através de um modelo IVA, especialmente quando comparado ao sales tax, aí ninguém admite a adoção de um sales tax pela realidade brasileira. Mas acho que há uma necessidade muito grande que a gente mude nossa cultura. E aí, como linkando aqui com o fim da fala do Zé Maria, se não houvesse esse problema e essa descrença institucional tão grande, a gente não estaria vivendo o que a gente vive hoje no Brasil com relação a ICMS, a PIS/COFINS e tantas outras distorções. Acho que, além da reforma tributária, a gente precisa repensar nossas instituições e princípios tão basilares como a legalidade, né, simples, mas que no Brasil dentro do direito tributário, hoje mesmo saiu essa instrução normativa do PIS/COFINS, ainda não vi, que tem 200 páginas, isso é gigante, enfim, 200 artigos, e aí, mais uma vez, a gente está agindo fora da legalidade, e esse é um problema muito difícil, que não vai ser através de reforma constitucional que a gente vai resolver. A gente precisa resolver as nossas instituições. Otto Maier fala, e essa é uma frase que a gente tem usado muito, né? O direito constitucional passa, o direito constitucional evolui, o direito administrativo fica, as práticas administrativas ficam. Então, uma grande preocupação que eu tenho é a gente passar uma PEC, passar um sistema bom e as nossas autoridades administrativas continuarem agindo com essa mentalidade atual. A gente precisa se atualizar nesse aspecto. E um exemplo que eu acho muito legal da União Europeia é o Jaffa Cake, né? Jaffa Cake. Aquele bolinho inglês do chá inglês, que teve essa discussão e, enfim, foi levada para a Suprema Corte para saber porque tem alíquotas diferentes. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. E como eles têm diferentes alíquotas para bolo e para biscoito, levou-se para a Suprema Corte para saber se o Jaffa Cake era bolo ou biscoito. E a Suprema Corte decidiu que biscoito é aquilo que, quando velho, fica mole, e bolo é aquilo que, quando velho, fica duro. E aí eu falo, por que a gente vai trazer essa complexidade para o Brasil se não adotarmos uma alíquota uniforme, única, que vai, assim, diminuir a complexidade de discussão, se é bem, se é serviço, se é bolo, se é biscoito. Enfim, a potencialidade que a gente tem de um sistema simples e da diminuição de complexidade com uma alíquota uniforme é realmente muito grande. Né, cabe uma outra exceção, mas acho que a alíquota uniforme é um outro ponto que traz transparência e cidadania fiscal também. Seriam essas minhas colocações para não ficar me alongando, porque senão eu fico aqui horas e horas falando. Obrigada. Você prefere esse? Tá.
Bom, queria
Queria agradecer ao Vitor pelo convite, à IBDT por promover o evento, e à professora Fabiola pela ótima exposição. Eu tive a oportunidade, aliás, fazer a propaganda, no começo do ano, participar do curso do IBFD de tributação do VAT. Eu recomendo a todos aqui essa experiência multiplicada por 5 dias e multiplicado por um dia inteiro. Então, realmente é um excelente curso e, como vocês viram, a professora Fabiola é uma enciclopédia ambulante de VAT. E o curso é interessante também, a experiência, especialmente para nós brasileiros, porque a gente percebe que o Brasil é o parque de diversões da tributação indireta. Então, por mais que nós tenhamos questões diferentes, curiosas na comunidade europeia ou em outros países, inclusive na Índia, que até pouco tempo competia com o Brasil como o pior sistema de tributação indireta. O Brasil, felizmente, ou infelizmente, a gente conseguiu ser primeiro lugar nisso. Mas a gente vê que não há invenção em tributação indireta que o Brasil já não tenha visto. Não há nada aqui que não se tenha inventado, não se tenha testado. Tudo pode ter outro nome no Brasil, mas tudo já foi testado aqui no Brasil. Então, é interessante ver esse conflito, né, de certa forma. Nós somos extremamente evoluídos em algumas questões, já desenvolvemos ferramentas incríveis para algumas questões, mas elas foram desenvolvidas pelo motivo errado. Acho que esse é um grande problema. O direito tributário brasileiro é extremamente avançado e evoluiu, desenvolveu ferramentas, mas sempre por motivos errados, né? Nunca pensando no que é o mais racional, no que é o melhor sistemicamente. E sim, aí eu acho que uma palavra que a professora Fabiola usou, que é muito importante, e sim, em razão da falta de confiança. A professora Fabiola falou da trustability. Então, acho que no Brasil, isso é que pega, a falta de confiança. E isso sempre foi o motivo pelo qual o nosso sistema foi sistemático. Eu acho que é uma das principais causas. Então, o fisco sempre desenvolveu ferramentas incríveis porque ele não confia no contribuinte. O contribuinte sempre desenvolveu esquemas fraudulentos incríveis, né? A professora falou da fraude como um grande número de 1,5 bilhões de euros na Europa. Nós temos números parecidos aqui no Brasil, num estado. Uma única empresa aqui no estado de São Paulo houve uma fraude, um esquema fraudulento da glicerina. Então, não é nem um estado inteiro, um segmento que cometeu uma fraude em relação a um insumo, a glicerina, que gerou um rombo no estado de São Paulo da ordem de 4,7 bilhões de reais. Então, é isso que nós vemos todo dia. Então, a questão da trustability, da confiança, eu acho que sempre foi um grande nó aqui no Brasil. E sempre foi um grande nó o motivo pelo qual acho que nós nunca avançamos uma reforma tributária. Tem um livro muito bom da professora Melina Luquitti, lá da GV do Rio de Janeiro, da Fundação Getúlio Vargas, e que ela faz um histórico. Ele é muito bom, mas é desanimador, porque você lê o livro e percebe que nós jamais teremos, imaginava, né, que jamais teríamos uma reforma tributária decente no Brasil. Infelizmente, apesar desse cenário desanimador desenhado pela professora Melina, a gente vê o que temos hoje. Hoje, finalmente, estamos falando de uma reforma tributária em que, aparentemente, está havendo um ambiente de confiança. Aparentemente, os entes tributantes estão confiando uns nos outros. Aparentemente, eu fiquei surpreso recentemente de ver a apresentação do coordenador da administração tributária aqui de São Paulo, dizendo: olha, os estados concordaram. Os estados concordaram com a Zona Franca de Manaus. Nós estamos todos de acordo. Claro que tem uma pitada de desconfiança. A gente não quer o governo federal no comitê. Tem uma pitadinha de desconfiança aí, né? Então, em teoria, o fisco, os estados, o poder público está concordando. E aí eu acho que tem a grande resistência no momento do contribuinte, né? O contribuinte, exatamente. E os municípios, olha, nós estamos desconfiando. O que vai acontecer, né? Nós estamos vendo uma proposta de emenda constitucional ótima, excelente e tal, todos concordando, mas tem muita matéria para ser decidida e regulada pela lei complementar, né? E nós sabemos como funciona a lei complementar no Brasil, ou regulamentação por lei no Brasil, o adiamento de coisas, etc. Então, de certa forma, eu acho que quando eu li a proposta PEC pela primeira vez, O que me animou foi a questão dos prazos de transição. Isso foi, para mim, a sacada mais inteligente da PEC, para que ela avançasse politicamente. Porque o que o político brasileiro não quer? Ele não quer ser responsabilizado. Então, se a PEC prevê que o sujeito que é político hoje ele não vai ter que sofrer os danos ou vai colher benefícios ou perdas dessa mudança radical que nós teremos, ele aprova. Ele aprova o que vier. Certo? Para ter uma bandeira para ganhar voto, olha, eu participei da proposta da reforma tributária. Certo? Quando isso vai gerar impacto nas finanças do Estado, daqui a 50 anos, a transição, onde é que eu assino? Né? Então, eu acho que é o ponto que todo mundo, acho que nós vemos esse conflito, e na minha opinião, a forma como a PEC está tramitando, claro, a gente tem que se elogiar novamente a iniciativa e que isso esteja avançando, mas todo mundo está com esse grande ponto de interrogação do que vem na lei complementar. E se nós não discutirmos, eu tenho um receio da lei complementar começar a ser discutida nesse momento, e com isso a reforma perder força, porque se nós não tivermos uma clareza um pouco maior do que vem na lei complementar, será que a sociedade vai continuar apoiando, a sociedade dando esse enorme voto de confiança, né? Sendo que quem vai ficar com a faca e o queijo na mão, como dizemos aqui, é o fisco, na hora de legislar? Então, acho que esse é um primeiro ponto. E que está ligado ao segundo ponto que eu gostaria de comentar, da questão das exceções. Né? Então, a gente está vendo aí a briga do setor de serviços e o incômodo que gera no Brasil você ter diferentes segmentos econômicos pagando o mesmo imposto com a mesma alíquota. Né? E no Brasil, o Brasil é o país em que todo mundo se acha especial, todo mundo tem certeza que é especial. Né? Então, nós temos... Qual é o nosso sistema de tributação indireta no Brasil? Ele não existe. Você tem um sistema de tributação do setor automobilístico, você tem um sistema de tributação do setor de cosméticos, você tem um sistema tributário do setor varejista, do setor atacadista. Cada segmento econômico tem o seu próprio sistema tributário no Brasil. Então, é muito difícil. E outra coisa também, não só cada segmento econômico tem seu sistema tributário, como cada grupo de interesse tem o seu sistema tributário. Então, o sistema tributário brasileiro ele não é só desenhado apenas em razão de interesses de setores, ele é desenhado em razão de interesses de alguns agentes econômicos, em muitos desses setores. Né? Então, nós vemos aí o quanto o legislador tributário brasileiro é capturado pelos agentes econômicos com maior poder. Né? A gente sabe o quanto a legislação, por exemplo, a sistemática de tributação do setor de bebidas, ela é alterada com a mesma justificativa para você tirar concorrentes do mercado. Isso é absolutamente claro. Então, quando você propõe que todo mundo tenha a mesma regra, isso gera um incômodo muito grande. Então, é um avanço incrível, mas me preocupa, um avanço incrível, mas preocupa, né? Onde é que essa turma vai conseguir manter, como eles vão conseguir manter as suas vantagens competitivas que hoje elas existem. Né? E acho que o último comentário que eu gostaria de fazer é a respeito da questão do que nós estamos unificando. Né? Então, claro, é um tremendo avanço unificarmos os tributos, o ISS, o IPI, o ICMS, PIS e COFINS. Né? Agora, infelizmente, não estamos unificando, não estamos colocando o setor financeiro na conversa, não estamos colocando o IOF na história. Né? Não, mas o IOF é um imposto de caráter extrafiscal regulatório. Sim, no câmbio, 100%. Mas nos empréstimos, nos serviços bancários, hoje isso é um artigo do Bernardo Apir sobre a tributação dos serviços bancários. Né? Então, de fato, por que não? Por que não tributar os serviços bancários? E outro ponto que são os pequenos tributos que nós temos por aí espalhados e que passam por baixo do nosso radar. Né? Então, as CIDs que nós temos por aí. Então, a professora Fabiola bem ressalvou, nós temos vários VATs no Brasil. Então, nós temos uma contribuição de intervenção no domínio econômico para a produção de filmes e publicidade no Brasil. Né? Com Decine, então você paga, se você for um prestador de serviço e resolver filmar um filme publicitário no Brasil, você pode ter, além do ISS, uma contribuição que você paga e que, a depender do número de atores brasileiros na produção daquele comercial, você paga mais ou menos. É incrível. A contribuição para a extração de minério. Então, né, o minério, até um determinado momento, ele é tributado com base numa contribuição. Dali para frente, em um determinado ponto, que até hoje a Agência Nacional de Mineração não sabe dizer muito bem qual que é, a partir de um determinado momento, o minério se transforma num produto, e aí ele deixa de pagar o tributo sobre minério e paga o tributo IPI. Então, acho que, mas, de qualquer maneira, é muito, de longe, essa a melhor proposta de reforma tributária que nós já tivemos, porque ela está sendo pensada a partir do que é o ideal e não do que é o possível fazer politicamente. Nós, no Brasil, praticamos desde o início da história no Brasil o que é possível politicamente. Então, por que existe o ICMS? Porque era possível politicamente fazer a Constituição de 88 e agregar ao ICM, serviço de telecomunicação e serviço de transporte. Então, era o que era possível politicamente. Então, pelo menos, a primeira vez, nós estamos fazendo uma reforma com base no que é o ideal. Claro que o ideal é relativo, tem gente que gosta de uma coisa, gosta de outra, mas, pelo menos, nós estamos avançando muito nesse sentido. Então, queria aproveitar a presença da Lina para renovar os parabéns para o CECIF. É um trabalho incrível, como o Zé Maria comentou, de dedicação, né, de entrega, todo santo dia participando de eventos, né, viajando pelo Brasil inteiro. E que bom que temos essa turma com essa disposição para fazer com que isso passe, né? E é isso. Eu queria agradecer a atenção e novamente, dar os parabéns para a professora Fabiola.
It's very interesting to hear what is happening here in Brazil, and it's more about the taxes, a lot of other things, and like, I don't want to know how many taxes you have, because after hearing this, I say, okay, and if every sector has something different, well, it's very complicated. But one of the things that I wanted, like, from your comments and everything, I think, like, Brazil is seen around the world, like, you mentioned it about the complicated system, about India and China and all that. Like, it's seen a complicated system. I have a lot of companies that they say, oh, no, we don't deal with Brazil, we don't do business, because in reality, later when we enter in Brazil, we really need Brazilian people, specialists in Brazil. I can imagine that if you change at least the part of consumption taxes to a kind of IBS, or how you call it, doesn't matter, a VAT type of tax, I think you will really open to foreign investment, because people will be much easier. You are a big market, it's a big country with a lot of people, and it will be really easy to invest and not have the cost, because sometimes they say, no, we don't want to be there, because the cost of compliance, related to having business in Brazil, and the cost of the tax, and the problem if we make mistakes is so high that it's better that we don't enter. But I'm sure that you are going to be open to more foreign investment and everything. Well, as you have seen, even India and China change it. Related to that, I will continue with Lina's comments about services, that you say, well, historically, services were the minimum. Like when the VAT was implemented, and everything also was around, the European Union was the first one, it was more than 70 years ago. And at that moment, really the dealing on service was the minimum. They didn't even, the majority of the VAT laws, they don't consider the importation of services. They have the import of goods. Why? Because, well, they could not import services in their mind, If you are getting services because someone come here and provide the services here. These days, and also if you see at the OECD level, the amount of the deal or the trade on goods and the trade of services, in the last 10 years, the trade of services increased more than the trade of goods. Also, if you go with the 20 biggest companies in the world, these days there is no company that they deal with goods. There are all service companies, because you will have the Googles, the Amazon, and everybody who deal with services as the biggest income revenues companies worldwide. That means that if you continue with the ICMS being the stronger tax, you're going to lose all your revenue, because the majority of the revenues are going to come from services. That's why I found really I don't know exactly, because you say that the 20% of the population was consuming services outside the public services. Yeah, about. I found it really strange, that number, because I consider it's very low, because these days services, everybody have a mobile phone. No. Everybody consumes services. Everybody buy an app. Yeah. Everybody, that is 20% of the population. I found it very small amount. I don't know how it's calculated. Maybe it's not a deal.
Just here.
Yeah.
Just for explaining, this kind of services that I was talking about is just the services that they call essential, like health service,
Okay.
education service, and I don't remember the others that are in PEC 110, that they have a lower rate because private, but
Yeah.
most of these both.
Okay.
Education and health.
Talking about
This
services,
kind of-
but not services in general.
No,
The word
no.
no, that's what I could not understand.
I'm
because
sorry.
I have to say that certain moments I lost some concept, but that's what I wrote everything, and like it's good that you're here because it's more for that's what I say, because in reality you should go to tax all services. You can decide what to do with public services and everything, but normally it's the same that you have really good, like you say, catastrophes, information about the, let's say, the low income, residents of Brazil, let's call it. I will go if you are going to design something specialized for them, and not start putting exemptions and reduce rate and all of that. I can relate it to services. What I can say, for example, maybe you can look at the reform of China, because China started in, I have to think about it, 2010, they really implement what they call it, the BAT. And later from there, they started year by year, they were going to, taking one service and putting into the BAT. The other next year, they did not all together. They say, well, first we do everything with goods. We have a VAT for goods. Later we take immobile property. We put it in the taxable base, let's say, as subject to VAT. Financial services the next year. And like that, they went one by one introducing it until they finished, I think, it was 3 years ago, that they have the full system now under VAT, because they also have China goods and service tax. They didn't have one. But they did also step by step. There is really a model how they did it, because they did it in a 5-year time. They really changed completely the system. India is another one that they did it, but I think in this case of services, China is better example, because they have it in a different way. That's what I say. If you want to read more, I can provide you a lot of information. You talk about that there is a lot of, let's say, professor, I don't know, or people like the academics that they would like to have for companies when they provide services, the credits related to salaries. Well, when you go to the ideal VAT and how to draw a VAT, of course, all academics, you will read books that they have different way to calculate the VAT. There are different systems. The system used worldwide is the credit system, the one that you credit, whatever you have in an invoice and everything like that. Of course, there are other systems how to calculate VAT. They could be one way, but it will not be exactly what everybody's doing. And if you do the system as I explain it, you will not be able to credit. If you give credits of salaries, you already start with a distortion of the system and a system that is not a VAT. It's another kind of VAT system, but not the typical one. That's what I say. There are different theories, to make it simple, because I can. That one about, you talk about also payment en estancado, which I was not really clear what, or something like that I don't know what it is. I was not able to translate it. I asked him and he told me something about nota. I think it's the amount in an invoice or something like that. Yeah. Yes, if you take credits, I don't know, of the payment of the advance. I imagine, because later you say something about Rita de la Feria, what she explained to separate it. You talk about, I can imagine that is about the split payment. That you can split the part of the VAT. In Europe, we have 3 member states at the moment that they use the split payment. That what you do, you create special accounts that you can, the supplier and the customer, when they have to pay to the supplier, they don't pay, in my example, the 100 and the 20, they pay the 100 in the bank account of the supplier and the 20 in the, let's say, VAT account of the supplier. That account is only for money for being paid to the government. And in that case, that is a split payment. You, at the moment of paying your suppliers, you have to split the VAT from the payment itself. And it does go out to block accounts, and from there you can only pay VAT. There is Romania now that is because some people have credits there that they can pay other taxes. You can create it as you want it, but you can do something like that. I will even go to a complete.
Where was that? In which country?
You have 3 countries at the moment. Italy, but it's very limited. Poland and Romania, they are using what is the split payment. Yes, that's what I say. They split at the moment, not for all transactions, and that's why I say I can explain more. I can give you articles and tell you everything. Even if you go to the documents of 2011, when the EU wanted to do the big reform, they talk about RTVAT. That is a system where I will split directly all the VAT. You are Brazil. You have all the technology. I will even go to a system that no one is able to touch the money of the VAT. If you can make it, create a good system, is perfect, because if no one, you will avoid fraud. Of course, later there will be like, of course, hackers maybe, or other things. You will always get risk, but at least if you can create a lot of like IT, these days we have like, we are discussing all about the digital economy, the e-commerce. Why not government have a system where this doesn't arrive to the hands of the, but okay. If you create a perfect system, you can do it. The problem is all the time the refunds and all that kind of things.
And we even avoid criminal problems, because we are now discussing in Brazil, if I pay to my supplier and my supplier does not remit the tax to the state government, if this is a crime or not. And
yeah, it's a crime, but like the issue is like in the European Union is what happened with the credit, because you pay to your supplier believing that it was a good supplier, and you pay it, and the government, like in the EU, all the cases, Halifax case and all that cases, they say if you did it in good faith, there is a lot of other things, and you can prove that you check it the supplier and you check the basics and everything, the government have to give you back the money.
This fraud of 4.7 billion reais here was this kind of
168 billion in the EU. Yeah, that's what I say. Like, we have the amounts, but that is, you will, if you have to do it in a block account and something like that, well, you are creating the system and you can learn from all the other mistakes of the others. And we are in a digital era. Let's make the digital revolution completely and give also the power to the government to do that. That you should be like doing that. About like you talk about something to separate goods and services, but it's the same, like, well, you can follow, like you will have to have definitions and you will have to look at all that. And for the rest, I think like what you say about trust, it's a lot of issues about trust also in the European Union, but it thinks that at certain moment they are overpassing, because every time more they are giving the powers to other governments to collect the money for them. Like, and I think you have to arrive to that point. I sometimes cannot believe it even that is happening, because also, like, it's like giving to your neighbor the power to collect your salary, because you need your salary like to maintain yourself, but suddenly your neighbor is collecting it, and when you need money, he's giving it to you, or when he got it, like it gives to you. Is, we are human, and the issue of trust is a big one. Can imagine as a government level, but well, luckily institutions are believing in the others, and let's hope we can all believe that it's going to be a good system. Yeah, and I don't know if there are any questions now. Maybe we can open to the floor, to the audience to make questions, doubts, anything, or if you have more questions for me or for any one of them, maybe.
I think we ran out of time.
Oh yeah, we're on.
I would like to thank you for your coming to Brazil. IVA is a very hot topic. And it's an honor to have you here. IBFD and IBDT have been together for a long time, and I hope to next year. Longer, because the fact that we're here up to now, we're using more of his time than we hired. It only means that a very important topic, and we feel like we share the same problems and concerns, and we have a lot to learn from each other. Brazil has a lot of technology in VAT, not for the good reasons, but of course we're trying to improve. Thank you all for your presence here this afternoon.